On Monday, Mark Spears blows up the NBA world because he goes on ESPN. They lead off NBA Today. Mark Spears says, quote, talked to two really high-ranking team executives today, and they said Toronto is the front runner, and they wouldn't be surprised if Dame Lillard ended up with the Raptors. Right now, there is no trade imminent. I do know Toronto is interested. Close quote. What say you guys when that comes across your timeline?
Would he show up to work? It's one thing to make a trade. It's one thing to trade for a guy. He's available to trade with the Portland Trailblazers. You're making the trade with the team. You're not making the trade with the player. And Dame Lillard's made it pretty known through different channels that there's basically one team that he wants to go to. And he's willing to do things to make it painful for a team that trades to him that's not on his list of teams to play for. So when I see the news come across that, hey, Toronto is in the lead for trading for Dame Lillard, is how much conversation have they had with the player as opposed to how much conversation have they had as opposed to the team?
So Mr. Spears was asked about this in the same conversation, and he said that he's not sure if Dame would, quote, like being in Toronto, but he feels like he's a professional and that he would show up and play. That's according to Mark Spears.
What about this team without Scotty Barnes on it makes Damian Lillard want to come in and play?
So that's not even the talk. The rumors, if we're diving into these rumors right now, and let's do this. Okay. Let's do this. We're here. We're in the weeds. The talk isn't really the talk is about Masai doesn't want to give up Scotty Barnes in this deal. Where have we heard that before? And that the deal that's on the table, it centers OG Anunoby. Then you get names like either Chris Boucher, Precious, like salary filler, Grady Dick, and Raptors, and picks. I'm sure first rounders that for the next few years. Now is what the Raptors have on the table versus, I'll say this, Tyler Hero and first round picks from Miami. That's the comparable.
Isn't OG up?
Yes. Webby, it's like you're segueing right into my soul right now, but continue.
I thought OG Anunoby is up after this year.
Correct.
After this year. So basically, you're trading Dame Lillard for a rental and picks.
Thank you.
Yes. No, I don't know if but we did this, Shelly. We did this before. We've had the same conversation.
But we haven't, though.
But we have with Kevin Durant. If you're not willing to give up Scotty Barnes for Kevin Durant, it's not. Again, it depends on how much you've talked to the player and the team. Yeah, if I'm talking to the team and I'm Masai and I'm the Portland Trailblazers, I'm not doing this deal without a young player under contract back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to say this as a starting point. If we're really going to have back-to-back seasons of Scotty Barnes not being available for a trade for Kevin Durant or Dame Lillard, two top 75 players in NBA history, I'm going to need Scotty Barnes to maybe make the All-Star game next year. You know, maybe. Like, is that too much to ask?
Show progression professionally.
Again, I'm going to repeat that. Damian Lillard and Kevin Durant are two top 75 NBA players of all time.
I forgot Dame made the list.
I'm just saying, if you're telling me that this man can't be put, like he's not on the table for either of those guys, I might need to see a little more from Scotty Barnes next year. I'll say that. 2, I'm going to go back to this Mark Spears quote, okay? Because my guy says, no trade is imminent, which means they're not close to a deal. So if you're not close to a deal, how can you be the front runner in a deal that doesn't exist? How does that make sense? What does that mean?
I think it's that question of maybe they've talked to one side more than the other, right? Like Clearly. They've talked to the team more than they've talked to the player. So no deal is imminent.
I'm going to ask you this. How many times have you seen Dave? I feel like about a month ago across my timeline, and first off, shouts to Mark Spears. Mark Spears is one of the best NBA reporters, writers there are in the NBA. So I'm not slandering Mark Spears. Mark Spears is doing his job. But this is what I'll say. We've seen Dame Lillard sit down with Mark Spears within the past couple months. We know that they have a long-standing relationship. Is it plausible that while the Miami Heat and the Blazers have been tap dancing around making a deal for the last however many months, Dame only wants to go to Miami. Miami's not raising their offer. No one else is going to raise their offer because they know Dame probably isn't going to be happy to go anywhere else but Miami. Is it plausible at all that Dame's camp leaks to Mark Spears, hey, the Raptors are really in this, just to try to make some more scuttlebutt conversation about maybe Miami might raise their offer if they think the Raptors are really in on this? Because here's the thing. Nothing's changing. This deal has been in talks for months and months and months. Everybody knows what everyone's offer is. Masai's known that he's not going to put Scotty Barnes in the deal. He's not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to put Scotty Barnes in this deal. If he was going to do that, he could have done that months ago, right? When he was panicking after Fred left and they had to get Dennis Schroeder, right? Like the Raptors have been in this position for a long time.
FIBA world champion, Dennis Schroeder.
MVP of the tournament.
In a tournament that really, really matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, with best on
player,
best.
Hold on. Best player in the world.
Best player in the world. Best player.
He's the best player in the world.
He's the best player in the world.
In the world.
He's the best player in the world.
So this whole thing makes no sense, right? Like, and the other side of this media thing, and you know, let's be honest here. A lot of media content now is click-based, click-oriented. There might not be an easier fan base to engage online and get clicks than a Raptors fan base. Okay. This Dame Lillard stuff, the part that someone needs to explain to me, and maybe you guys can help me out here. Okay. Webby, you mentioned it. OG has 1 year left on his deal, right? So you need to explain to me why the Portland Trail Blazers are going to trade away their franchise player for 1 year of OG Anunoby, picks, and salary filler. Let's say they think OG is that dude, right? And cool, OG can be the guy. Let's say, let's go there, okay? Even if that's the case, right? They'd have to re-up him as part of this deal for it to make sense, right? Meaning you'd have to go to OG and make a deal and say, hey, we want you to be the guy here. Let's re-up your contract so that we can make this deal work as part of this. No, right? Like that would make sense. But the part that doesn't make sense to me is why would OG want to re-sign in Portland right now? What logic does that make? So Portland's going to trade their franchise player for 1 year of OG Anunoby? That makes no sense. That makes zero sense to me. How, like, that's a part where I'm just like, guys, what are we doing here? Clicks,
that's
engagement, I get it, but like,
that's why I think
can we be real.
You might be right about. I think that's where you might be right about, like, because Spears wasn't the only one. Didn't Woj come out and tweet that, hey, while this trade may not happen right now, the wheels are turning and things are moving on the Damian Lillard trade. The Spears report comes out. So is this Lillard trying to turn up the heat on the market? Like, are these leaks coming out from him?
I think it's coming from the Blazers trying to get more out of the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are basically saying, hey, we know Dame wants to come here, so here's our offer. The Blazers are like, well, we want more than that. And Miami, rightfully so, is saying, well, why would we negotiate against ourselves? Like, who are we bidding against? Yeah. So even when you add in another team, right, and you say, oh, well, there's other teams in the league that have interest, and so many of these stories about the Raptors are like, well, the Raptors are definitely interested. You know what? I'm also interested in Rihanna. That means literally nothing. Literally nothing, right? Well, so cool. They're interested. They're in the race. What does that mean?
But not only that, but then, like you say, Masai comes out and says, well, we're not going to put Scotty Barnes in the deal. So then if you're Miami, then you're like, well, again, now you've just defeated yourself, because now we're negotiating against you trading Dame Lillard for 1 year of OG Anunoby. My hero and picks looks better than that.